Good evening. Welcome to the December 4th Village Board Legislative Session. This meeting is called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Bazemore,
Present.
Trustee Herrera,
Present.
Trustee Quesada,
Present.
Trustee Levin,
Present.
Mayor Garrity.
Present.
Moving on to special presentation, the swearing in of the new Ossining Police Department Sergeant James Castanis.
So we're going to skip ahead to item number H, letter H, so that we can vote on that.
Appointment, Police Sergeant James Castanis. Resolved, the County of Westchester Department of Human Resources has certified to the Village of Ossining a list of eligible candidates containing at least 3 names for the permanent appointment position of Police Sergeant, and whereas James Castanis is ranked as on the aforesaid list of eligible candidates. Now, therefore it is resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, pursuant to the applicable provision of Civil Service Law and the unconsolidated laws of New York State, hereby appoints James Castanis to the position of Police Sergeant in the Village of Ossining from eligible list number 71-198, effective December 5th, 2019, at an annual salary of $127,020. This appointment is subject to a probationary period of not less than 12, no more than 52 weeks. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. With that, I will make my way down. Oh, no, I hold it. That's okay. So welcome. We're very excited to be here this evening. I'm going to read this aloud, and Officer James Castanis. No, yeah, I can't tell if at this moment if you're an officer or a sergeant because we voted. We haven't been sworn in. So it's a little transition at the moment. All right, so just a moment. You'll be a sergeant. Here we go. I, James Castanis,
I, James Castanis,
being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, character, or the public.
being duly sworn, state on my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust.
Will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for our actions.
Further, that I am a resident of the state of New York,
Further, that I am a resident of the state of New York,
and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York.
and I will support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of New York.
I will obey all the ordinances, rules, and regulations of the Village of Ossining,
I will obey all the ordinance, rules, and regulations of the Village of Ossining,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Police Sergeant
and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Police Sergeant
in and for the said Village of Ossining, New York, to the best of my ability.
in and for the said Village of Ossining, New York, to the best of my ability.
First, the chief apologizes for not being here this evening. He's on vacation. Even he gets some time off. Jimmy started out in the Bronx, busy precinct with NYPD. He transferred up to Ossining. Shortly after being transferred up, he was deployed to serve our country in Iraq. When he returned, he was put on the SWAT team. He was made an FTO, firearms instructor, and now sergeant. We always seem to lose our FTOs as soon as we get them. It seems to be the natural path of progression with us here. A good thing about our job and the size of our job is that we get to see our officers on a daily basis, and we get to see how they deal with challenges throughout their career. And Jimmy has always kept in stride. He never turned negative. If he made a mistake, he learned from it and he made himself better. And today, as a sergeant, I have the utmost confidence. And congratulations.
Maybe. Oh, I haven't said anything to Thomasina, but he's always welcome. move on to someplace better for chatting. Although you're welcome to stay. Okay. Madam Clerk.
Moving on to mayor's and trustees announcements.
I have no announcements.
Anybody else have any announcements? I think people are moving on.
Yes, my annual winter weekly reminder. As we all know, it's pretty cold out there and it's going to get colder. So if you or anyone need shelter, just meet up in front of Open Door Monday through Sunday for the next couple of months, thanks to the Emergency Shelter Partnership Program, which is made possible by a lot of pretty amazing groups and people. It's every day. All you have to do is meet up in front of Open Door at 9 o'clock, and you will receive a place to stay, a warm meal, and some food in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else with announcements? Rika?
Nope.
Okay, well, we have a couple of exciting things coming up. This Friday is our tree lighting happening at Market Square. The music begins at 5:30, and then just after 6:30, you will hear fire trucks coming down through downtown. It's not an emergency, at least one of the trucks will not be because of an emergency. They will be bringing Santa and Mrs. Claus to visit with the children just after 6:30. Is that still on track? Okay, great. And then we'll have our tree lighting. Am I getting the order incorrect? When does the tree lighting actually happen? After Santa, right?
After Santa.
After Santa arrives. Okay.
Before that, our recreation program is going to be doing a performance. The after-school kids are going to be singing.
That's great.
Yeah, and
Okay,
then
good.
followed by the Risco Band, and then Santa and the tree lighting.
Excellent. And there'll be cookies and hot chocolate?
Cookies and hot chocolate.
All right. All right. Well, I look forward to seeing folks down there next Friday. Facebook just reminded me that exactly 7 years ago today was tree lighting. It's a wonderful annual event. I look forward to seeing many families there. And then next week is the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series screening for December, happening on the 12th. And the film is, oh my gosh, it's called, now I'm remembering, called Like. And it is about social media. It is about how social media has impacted our lives, particularly the lives of young people. It is appropriate for people ages 10 and up. We encourage families to attend, parents to attend. It's going to be a really terrific panel. And this month we will have a special moderator who is familiar to us all. Superintendent Ray Sanchez will be moderating the discussion with our panelists. So please join us. For more information, visit osningdocumentaries.org. Madam Clerk.
Moving on to administrative reports. Village Manager Karen Dottori.
Over the course of the storm, which largely we've got many requests. You might notice that we have expanded our our holiday decorations. Let's be clear, our holiday decorations along Croton Avenue and on Spring Street. So you will see nice twinkling snowflakes and some garlands, and we're looking to be able to improve what we do on our streets to remind everybody how important our community is. We want to look good, and we want everybody to feel holiday cheer. We are also coming to a completion on the Broadway Bridge. So I think in the very early new year, we're going to have on stage. We will be opening Broadway, and we will be able to actually drive through the Broadway Bridge, which will be really nice. So today I attended a meeting for Communities That Cares, which is a coalition of agencies. It was a coalition that was established by Open Door Family Medical Centers in 2004, and it's been dedicated to preventing substance abuse amongst young people. We just received a $1 $1.5 million grant that will extend be paid out over 5 years. And we had a community stakeholder meeting to discuss ways that community partners will be participating in that grant, which will really focus on preventing alcohol use, vaping, and marijuana use. There were, along with the village and town of Ossining, the police department was there. We had members from the school district, other nonprofits, the library, and again, many of the people who were at this meeting have been involved with Communities That Care since 2004. Some are newer, but we have a very robust group of agencies working on behalf of our community, on behalf of our youth, and this program will actually dovetail very nicely with our youth bureau programming. There is some amount of funding throughout this program that will be able to supplement what we're doing with the youth bureau. So we were very happy to be at that meeting, and it's good to know that we have a community that indeed cares. I'd like to pass this over to Janie Hoffman to just make a few brief statements. She attended a meeting with the county on the census, so if you could just update us on that meeting.
Sure. So I attended a meeting last night and represented the village and the town for a meeting that was hosted by Norma Drummond on behalf of George Latimer. And it was held at the Greenberg Town Hall. And it consisted of Norma Drummond, who is the planner for the county, discussing how all of the counts committees can work together. They're going to be creating a speakers network that will be coming out to all of the different communities that can help with corresponding. Some things that I got to take away from this are some really important things, like for every person not counted, $2,500 per person out of tax revenue is lost. So if there's 400 people, multiply that times 2,500. So there's certain communities where there was a lot of people that weren't counted. And we'll be able to, because this is mostly done electronically this year, we'll be able to take a look at the census as we're doing it, and starting in April, and we'll see if there are certain areas where people have not participated, and we can really have the counts committee go out and really hit the ground and talk about the census in that area to encourage people to do it. I was there with Stanley and from Senator Carlucci's office, who's here also, and we had an opportunity to speak to some of the folks from Neighbors Link, and we're starting to put together some paperwork that we can distribute, and they have some really great ideas on how to do that, part of our counts committee that will help the elderly who are told all the time through the police department and through every other area, don't answer the phone, don't open your mail, don't talk to these people. So helpful what to say, what if they receive it, what it looks like, if it's right, and then how to speak to certain communities in Ossining. There's some communities, like say for instance the undocumented community, that may not feel comfortable participating, how everything is private and they're not able to share it, and so on, and they've created some great material that we'll be able to share that will help the community participate so that Ossining does get counted.
Great.
Corporation Counsel Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Martha. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I wanted to bring to the public's attention two recent bills that were signed by the governor, which are actually of interest and will be of interest to residents in the village. Both go into effect late May, early June, 180 days from now. The first are two amendments to the penal law, creating the crime of harassment of a rent-regulated tenant. That will apply within the village to those folks who are in ETPA-covered buildings. It now has both harassment of a tenant in the second degree, which if convicted is a Class A misdemeanor, and harassment of a tenant in the that's in the second degree, and in the first degree, that is a Class E felony. I'll read it to you briefly. An owner is guilty of harassment of a rent-regulated tenant in the second degree when, with intent to induce a rent-regulated tenant to vacate a housing accommodation, the owner intentionally engages in a course of conduct that impairs the habitability of a housing accommodation, creates or maintains a condition which endangers the safety or health of the dwelling's tenant, or is reasonably likely to interfere with or disturb, and does interfere with or disturb, the comfort, repose, peace, or quiet of such rent-regulated tenant in his or her occupancy. It's important to note, though, that the good faith commencement in pursuit of a lawful eviction is not considered harassment of a rent-regulated tenant. For harassment in the first degree, there would be an injury component, or if it involves two or more tenants in a particular building. And the statute clearly provides that a rent-regulated tenant does include those tenants who are covered by the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974, which is the ETPA. That will go into effect on June 3rd of 2020. But tenants should be aware of that, as frankly should landlords. The other is a bill which was actually sponsored by Senator Carlucci, and it is an amendment to the general business law. Westchester County does have a very robust county laws with regard to home improvement contractors, requiring that they be licensed and that the contracts be in writing. What this amendment to the general business law does is it specifically includes roofing contractors. And the reason that has been done is specifically to deal with folks who are called essentially storm chasers. Those folks who go house to house after a major storm to convince you that your roof has to be replaced and the roof has to be repaired. What is particularly important in the legislation that was passed here is that in addition to the county, obviously all the contracts must be in writing. The contracts must provide insurance provisions in it as to specific levels of insurance that must be provided by the contractor. But also, the contractor may not, as part of the contract, work a deal with the homeowner that will pay your deductible or will work something out like that. That is impermissible. Also, the law will provide that in the event that you are having your roof repaired as a result of a loss and your property and casualty insurance company subsequently decides that they will not cover the loss, you will have 3 days from that determination to tell your contractor that you want out of the contract. And the contractor at that point must return all funds to you, except for that which the contractor has earned through the work that he or she has already done. It's another law which will go into effect in 6 months, and that I believe would be at the end of May of 2020. So this is will work in conjunction with the county law, but it is specifically designed for those contractors who work on roofs and puts extra measures in place for those particular individuals. So both of those are important and both will impact folks within the village. There is a planning board meeting. Let me stop first. There's a zoning board meeting. The last zoning board meeting of the year is this Tuesday night on the 10th. It is the last meeting for members Bob Fritchie and chairperson Suzanne Donnelly, as they will be moving on to bigger and better. And the week after that, we have the final planning board meeting of the year. Note that that is a different date. It will be the 17th because the fourth Tuesday of the month is Christmas Eve, so we won't meet that time. So we do have land use meetings on both the 10th and 17th of this month. So agendas will be posted if they're not already up, and public is obviously invited to attend. Both of those meetings are at 7 p.m. at the Ossining Operations Center. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Will Captain Georgia like to make any announcements in lieu of Chief Staff Officer?
Sure. We're approaching the holiday season, and we have had in the past and today issues with people stealing packages off of front porches. We just ask that you remain diligent, keep an eye on your neighbors, and please call should you see any suspicious behavior. Also, in light of the holiday season, we are going to be stepping up our patrols for DWI enforcement. As they say, drive sober or get pulled over. It's a dangerous time of year as well with the roadways. On a good note, we do have two candidates coming out of the academy. They are graduating next week, so I am happy to have another two individuals in patrol. Thank you.
Excellent.
Is there anyone here who would like to make an organization announcement?
We have someone. Welcome, Mr. Dorsonville.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity. I'll be quick. I just wanted to pay a quick highlight to January 10th. We will be having our Senior Advisory Council meeting at Austin Public Library. So just to please do keep that on your radar. And so that's actually it. So January 10th at the Austin Public Library is the Senator David Carlucci's Senior Advisory Council meeting. So yeah. Oh, actually, I should probably provide the time. That would most likely be helpful. Yes, that will be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I'm sorry. Yes. So thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board on any of the resolutions this evening? So approval of minutes, November 20th, 2019. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby approves the minutes of the November 20th, 2019 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Abstain.
Approval of voucher detail, December 4th, 2019. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated December 4th, 2019 in the amount of $400,379.29. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Fiscal year 2020 budget adoption. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining has received from the Town Assessor for the year 2020 a combined total taxable assessment of real property and special franchise properties of $2,109,379,276. And whereas the Board of Trustees received the 2020 tentative budget on November 6th, 2019, in accordance with Section C4-3 of the Village Charter and has since amended same after having held a public hearing and giving further consideration to requests and recommendation of all department heads. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining does hereby adopt the budget of the Village of Austining for the fiscal year 2020, showing that there be levied and assessed upon the sum of taxable and special franchise properties of the Village of Austining, and hereinfore listed the sum of $22,885,040 to be raised by real property tax levy, which sum is more completely set forth in the budget for the Village of Austining. And be it further resolved that the tax rate rounded to the nearest penny and the same hereby is fixed at $10.8492 per $1,000 of assessed taxable valuation. And be it further resolved that the adopted budget for calendar year 2020 shall include the appropriations and estimated revenues for the General Fund, Water Fund, Sewer Fund, Section 8 Program Fund, and Debt Service Fund as modified by the Board of Trustees as follows. And be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees does hereby authorize a capital plan for the calendar year 2020 as presented, subject to follow-up board resolutions to implement it. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board?
Yes. Okay, so tonight at the Wednesday, December 4th, Village Austining Board of Trustees meeting, the following statement below is why I will be voting no on the proposed 2020 budget. As an elected official, I have a fiduciary responsibility to ensure all taxpayer funds are used responsibly, effectively, and allocated correctly. I am also a firm believer that any or all taxpayer-funded employment opportunities should be posted and accessible for all who are qualified and wish to apply. This is my true definition, at least, of what an equal opportunity employer means and is. The main and only premise for my no vote this evening, and unfortunately in a a budget of this sort, you can't pick and choose. It's either all yes or all no, was due to the proposed creation of a new six-figure executive-level village manager assistant position. Upon learning of our recently appointed village manager Karen DeTore's desire to add an executive-level six-figure addition to the office, myself and a few colleagues requested a full detailed job description and how it applied to all current operations overall. We received a PowerPoint slide with a few detailed, but not, kind of vague bullets, and a vague description. That's about it. Concurrently, as we were learning about the alleged need for the new role, the process had already begun to change the village charter to allow for the position to be appointed. The resolution was already drafted before our discussion even began. To make this overall situation worse, the manager had already handpicked a friend for the role who currently works in the town of Ossing's supervisor's office. The continuation of cronyism at its best. It was made clear that the village manager's office was not planning on posting the position publicly or interviewing any other candidates once the change amendment was adopted, if in the near future they would consider adding that role. And I'm sharing this to be consistent. Let's not forget that back in May of this year, myself and fellow trustee Bazemore had to vote no on the appointment of our new manager due to how the individual was hired and the lack of equitable and transparent process due to it not being posted, and also the behind the scenes conversations done even before the candidate was interviewed. If the camera can zoom to this, I just wanted to kind of break down what I'm talking about. So currently our manager makes, estimated $187,000. The junior assistant makes $70,000. Our project manager, also known as a confidential secretary, makes $100,000. And the proposed new assistant village manager makes $120,000.
Yes.
We're getting very close to matters that should be executive session, personnel matters.
I won't be, that was all the information as far as personnel.
You also discussed who was going to be hired for the position.
I didn't say who.
You made it very clear. And that,
a
in
lot
fact,
of people work in that office.
It was inappropriate, sir. To be perfectly blunt, it's an executive session matter. That should not have been said at all.
So that brings the budget within that office to close to $500,000. Now, I cannot with any right mind speak to residents because I don't even understand what that person that's going to be paid $120,000 will be doing. And that to me is reckless and ludicrous because I don't understand till this very day. And that was a decision done by this board. Now, budgets have a lot of priorities, and I'm totally fine, and I came prepared to be the only one to vote no on the budget. But I made a promise and to stand on principles and values and morals on what is right, and residents should know how we're operating and the culture that we are accepting here in the village. Thank you.
I'd like to go into executive session on matters of personnel, please. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, who's,
Anybody else like
John?
to comment on the budget?
we on? I'm sorry. Okay, so I would, thanks. I'm sure you'll talk about, because I've seen some of the stuff about the percentage and how it's staying at zero, because I know that's something you're going to be discussing. I just wanted to, I got some questions, not a lot, about the budget and how part of it works is what is being committed to and not. So from my perspective and my understanding of the overall budget, and the budget can only be done by 5 trustees, I do want to say that the process was probably, correct me if I'm wrong, about 2 months long from when we start to when we end. We've had a number of meetings, I would say more than half a dozen. The staff meets. there is 2 months of time, and it's done, by the way, in this village at exactly the same time of the year every single year, because there are laws about when we have to approve them, when we have to approve the budget. There was lots and lots of opportunity, really 24 hours a day, because of emails where trustees could have asked any questions they wanted, and so could the public. And we did have public meetings, and we had a presentation. So there were questions about how does one get involved, and just so people understand, it's like this every year. There's about 6 weeks to 8 weeks where all the budgets are put together, and the village manager or anybody on her staff can be chosen to explain details and still can. Part of the budget is also placeholders. So lots of pieces on the budget, because it's approved, doesn't mean it's carte blanche for any department head or village manager trustees to run off with the money, if you will. Many of the items are approved as placeholders. We may or may not hire somebody for a position. We may or may not start a program. We may have an intern, we may not. You have to create now a budget and budget lines in order to understand that if the situation occurs, and we believe that there's a greater than 50% that a situation occurs, or the committees that we have may need some funding and they come and present, parts of this is really in sand, not in stone. They all these budget items still have to come in front of the board. They have to be voted on. The village manager signs off on certain things. So because it's in the budget, it means it's a priority. It does not mean it's 100%, going to start on January 1st. I do get questions about that, and I found that a part that was hard to understand when I first joined the board. So I do want to say that I found the process to be, every year it gets better. Maybe it's just that I know how to participate in it more, so I appreciate the work and the work that department heads did. The capital expenses tend to run year to year. Every year there's some new things, and every year some things fall out. And our financial position is in really, really good place, which is, I think, the big picture for people listening to this. Otherwise, I went to my usual cadre of people who tend to look at this stuff, and I think the feedback has been generally, it's a pretty good budget with some new stuff added on it and some stuff taken off. So I appreciate the work that was done. For the most part, I am in support of it, and the village manager and I have had a number of discussions because, seriously, not all these things happen, in these Wednesday meetings. So many of the things should really, in conversation, should be occurring with the trustees, the village manager, department heads, really at any time. They're available to us all their working hours. And I do appreciate, thank you, Tom, for any questions that I had for the finance, and to Dale that I went to. So and the chief of police who answered some of my questions. I know he's not here, but I appreciate some of the answers he gave me. I just do want to say that some of the new pieces, the new hires that are in here, et cetera, are place marks. When we get more information about the Youth Bureau, we'll know more. We started, going down that, that journey. So I'm looking forward to more about that. And some of the sites that we're looking for in development, all in all. So I think good work, and I'm in support of the budget.
Anyone else with comments?
Yeah, so I offered, this is oh man, this is what the third, how many budgets? This is my third or fourth budget. I can't remember.
That'll be an even number.
2016 started.
Yeah, this is like my fourth budget. I've often said that you can tell a community priorities by looking at their budget, and I am happy to say that seeing things like the Beams programming and seeing youth programming services being expanded is something that initially when I started as a trustee, it was very little, and today I'm glad to say that along with my colleagues over the years and even present, that we've been able to push youth development further. Yes, there are things in budgets that I may not like, or I'm opposed to, or I may not like certain shiftings of funds and different things, but I do think that this budget in many ways is moving our community forward. So yes, I've of course made my statements about earlier matters and things that are budgeted for, but I will be voting yes for the it's still it is still a budget that shows our priorities. And to Trustee Levin's point, yes, just because it's budgeted for, doesn't mean that it will come to fruition. And that is the next step. And every year, we budget for things and you can't get the person hired, or you budget for things and you can't find the right consultant. But if it's not budgeted for, it can't happen. And so as long as it's budgeted for, it at least gives the community a roadmap of where we want to go, or at least the ideas of those who are sitting in these chairs right now. So tonight I will be voting yes, because there are some items that are important to me, and it will be up to those who sit in the seats in January to make sure that those things.
I agree in everything you said. There's a lot of stuff in. I don't want to say concerns, but I have obviously part of the process. Elevator happened at some. I know it's in the budget for 2021.
Budget. That's the most we can do right at this
Yeah,
point.
sure.
So.
But there's and yes, there's a lot of great things happening. For next year. All right, thank you, Tom. Sorry about that. I do want to thank a village manager. That awesome job going through the process of the budget. Answer a lot of my questions that I had, a lot of my concerns. I want to thank the staff for Dale, Captain, our chiefs, everybody that actually had to do with anything budget. Great thing. We had advanced our prior years, where we are looking for the future of better our community and different aspects. So, very supportive of this.
Karen, great job. Thank you so much for jumping in and working so well with Tom and Dale and all of the department heads. This is 7th budget that I've sat in on and gotten to vote on, and for that I observed as a trustee-elect, and I would say every year we learn so much. It is such a learning experience thanks to the incredible expertise of our professional staff. And my first year as mayor, we talked about doing a 0% tax rate increase, but we didn't. But it was the first time I think we'd really talked about it. And this is now our 4th year in a row where we've had a 0% tax rate increase. And there's always a different reason each year why we're able to get to that number. That doesn't mean that your household taxes are not going up, because the value of your home might be going up. In one neighborhood, the value of your home might be going down this year, but for most people, it's staying the same. It speaks to the careful budgeting, the careful spending, the diligence of our staff in every department that we're able to stay on budget. So thank you to everyone throughout the year to bring us to this point where we can have a budget that we are all proud of. Madam Clerk.
This is a roll call vote. Trustee Herrera?
No.
Trustee Levin? Yes. Trustee Quesada?
Aye.
Trustee Bazemore?
Aye.
Mayor Garrity?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing tax tertiary payment for Cablevision of Austining Limited Partnership, 1 Van Cortlandt Avenue. Whereas certain tax tertiary proceedings were instituted against the Board of Assessors and or the Assessor of the Town of Austining and the Board of Assessment Review by Cablevision of Austining Limited Partnership against petitioners' property situated at 1 Van Cortlandt Avenue in the Village of Austining and designated as Section 89.15, Block 1, Lot 38, for the 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, and 2017 assessment years, which proceedings were commenced in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, Westchester County, under index numbers 64263/2013, 65502-2014, 65650/2015, 63266/2016, and 64834/2017. And whereas the Village of Austining ceased being a tax assessing unit in 1989 and now adopts the Town of Austining assessment roll for the Village of Austining as prepared by the Assessor of the Town of Austining for all subsequent years, and whereas on November 7th, 2019, a consent judgment was entered in favor of the petitioner Cablevision of Austining Limited Partnership against the town of Austining, correcting, fixing, and reducing the assessed valuations of the aforesaid real property and the improvements situated thereon, as set forth in Schedule A annexed hereto. And whereas the aforesaid consent judgment, among other things, directs the village of Austining to audit and pay to the petitioner the amount of all taxes together with the proportionate share of any interest or penalty paid by reason of delinquent payment of any excess taxes paid by petitioner as taxes against the said erroneous assessment in excess of what the taxes would have been if the said assessments made in the aforesaid years had been determined by this consent judgment. And whereas any and all refunds of taxes necessitated by consent judgment are to be made without interest if paid within 60 days after service upon the village of a certified copy of the consent judgment with notice of entry. And whereas the consent judgment with notice of entry was served upon the treasurer of the village of Austining by petitioner on November 18th, 2019, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the village of Austining, upon certification by the village treasurer that all of the aforesaid taxes have been paid, hereby authorizes and directs the village treasurer to make the payment of such refund of real property taxes due to Cablevision of Austining Limited Partnership to Forcelli, Deegan, and Tirana LLP as attorneys and agents for the petitioner as required by said consent judgment, and be it further resolved that the village treasurer is authorized to make the aforesaid payment so the village may avoid the payment of any penalties, and be it further resolved that the village treasurer shall make a notion in the margin of the assessment rules of the village of Austining the said assessments were reduced and payment of a refund of these overpayment of real property taxes was made pursuant to said judge. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Comments on the board?
It's not necessarily about this, but indirectly, it reminds me that I'd at one point, I don't know, Stuart, if I had asked you to look into it on the waterfront and on our park to be able to have, just this Cablevision discussion, to have Wi-Fi everywhere in the village. Do you know if move anywhere on that? This is just reminding me that that was sort of an open issue.
Okay, no, I do not know what the status is. I'll
Okay,
inquire.
no, and it doesn't have to be today, but it just reminds me that I've been meaning to follow up, and I just forgot to do it, so this is reminding me. So thank you, and back to this.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign a contract with Keller Sessions Consulting Engineering and Landscape Architecture Planning, DPC. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a contract with Keller Sessions Consulting Engineering and Landscape Architecture Planning, TPC, Keller Sessions, 500 Main Street, Armonk, New York, 10504 for a term of 4 months, December 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020 at $7,500 per month, whereby Keller Sessions shall provide planning and engineering services to the village, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the contract, Keller Sessions also shall provide services to the village to be reimbursed on an hourly basis. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of changes to fee schedule for 2020 other than water and sewer fees. Whereas the village's adopted financial goals and policies requires in part of the establishment and periodic evaluation of user charges and fees to help reduce reliance on real property taxes, and whereas at this time village management has recommended certain changes to the adopted fee schedule for 2020, and now therefore be it resolved that village's fee schedule is hereby amended effective January 1st, 2020 for the following user charges and fees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Adoption of changes to fee schedule for 2020, water and sewer rents and fees. Whereas the village's adopted financial goals and policies requires in part the establishment and periodic evaluation of user charges and fees to generate revenue sufficient to support the costs of the water and sewer funds, and whereas at this time village management has recommended a 5.0% increase to water and sewer rates in the adopted fee schedule for 2020, and for meter fees and related service connection charges, now therefore be it resolved the village's fee schedule for water and sewer rates and fees is hereby amended effective January 1st, 2020 as follows. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is there any continuing business of the board?
There is not. Don't believe. No continuing.
No,
Plenty of new
continuing, no.
business, though.
Yeah.
Okay. Going on to new business of the board, Sing Sing Hill Brewery refreshment and cabaret license for 2020.
Good evening, members of the board. The Sing Sing Hill Brewery has filed an application for a renewal of its cabaret license for 2020. It has been approved. The building department has done an inspection, and it passed the inspection. No indication of any issues from the police department, and the license is sought for the time period would be Sunday through Saturday from noon until 2 a.m. 2 a.m. is generally the cutoff time that we have used, and that was similar to what was issued last year. And I would ask the board, if the board is okay, to proceed with a resolution on the 18th of December for approval of the cabaret license.
I have no objections.
Okay, so we're not voting. I'm recusing myself anyway. I just thought that you were voting.
I didn't have that resolution tonight because
Oh,
I
okay.
had all the others, but.
So what are we voting on? What are we
Nothing.
doing?
Nothing.
Nothing.
If I may, the reason we're doing it this way is because at next week's meeting, which is going to be all the boards and commissions, we're at the library, we're under time constraints, so a lot of what would ordinarily be at that work session, I tried to push under new business for this week.
Okay.
So that we could at least have the discussion, and then, if need be, vote on the 18th, because we have everybody coming next week for the presentation at the library.
I have no
It's
objections.
a renewal, and I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. So, yeah.
Good, so,
Stuart,
yeah.
I just had a general question for cabarets itself. Typically, other establishments come in through the year, or mainly at the end of the year.
Right.
Are we expecting to see any of that happening anytime soon?
As far as I know, this is the only one we've seen that I've seen to date. So we do tend to get a rush towards the very end of the
Correct.
year. So I would expect between now and the end of the year, clerk's office and police and building will be busy getting those in. But as far as I know, the only one I've seen for 2020 as of yet is the one for this particular applicant.
All right, no problem.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just a renewal like everyone else's, so. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Right, I'm back at the table.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign a contract with Triad Group LLC. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a contract with Triad Group LLC, 400 Jordan Road, Troy, New York, 12180, for a one-year term, January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, whereby Triad Group LLC will provide specific services to the village, as detailed in the contract in connection with the village's self-insurance of its workers' compensation claims, and be it further resolved that the service fee to be paid by the village to Triad shall not exceed $60,000 per year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
This was in new business because we hadn't discussed it, right? So do you want to, Stuart, I should have paused before I said Madam Clerk. Is there anything to explain to us about how this is different than it has in the past?
The only difference, Mayor, with this is there is one additional fee that will be charged to the village, and that's which is a 25% of savings for those employees. And just so it's clear, Triad, what we use them for is they are our third-party administrator on workers' compensation claims. And they have a fee schedule that they set out for us. One of the things that they will be getting, would be 25% of savings for those individuals using preferred provider organizations. And that's a new fee that they're getting, and that has to do part with certain changes that New York put in for its workers' compensation. Triad plus other third-party administrators have had to obtain significant upgrades to their computer systems. And this is sort of a cost that's going across the board. Everything else is the same. They did offer to us a 1-, 3-, and 5-year proposal. I'm recommending to the board the 1-year proposal because as they are a provider of a particular service, it is something that ultimately would probably have to go out, either be RFP or questions to potential providers of the service. But for at least the next year, with this contract is, with the exception of the one thing I mentioned before, identical to the year before. It's identical to the current contract.
Okay. Then would you ask us to vote again, please, Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign a contract with the SPCA of Westchester, Inc. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a contract with the SPCA Westchester, Inc., 590 North State Road, Briarcliff Manor, New York, 10510, for a one-year term, January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2020, for $34,330.94 to provide care and shelter for homeless and stray dogs and cats seized by dog control officers, animal control officers, police, and other agents of the municipality, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the contract, the village also agrees to pay to the SPCA of Westchester, Inc. the following charges for the Trap Neuter Return TNR program for feral cats brought to the SPCA with village permission. $55 for each female cat spay procedure, $40 for each male neuter procedure, both fees inclusive of rabies vaccination and ear notching, and $50 for euthanasia and cremation reserved only for cats who are suffering as a result of illness or injury where treatment or rehabilitation is not possible. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, Stuart, what's different here, this contract?
Yeah, actually, the main fee of $34,330.94 is the same as we have been paying this year. The only difference on the other is that the euthanasia cremation fee has been increased from $35 to $50. There are specific provisions in this contract, as there are in the 2019, for the SPCA to get the TNR forms before they, in fact, will be paid for doing procedures on any of the cats that are brought in. And the other change is more logistics than anything else, because the SPCA will be under construction at their Briarcliff Manor location. They will be relocating for next year to Cortland Manor, and we have that address, and that's where the cats will be brought and animals will be brought as well. I've discussed that with the chief, and he is aware of it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign a premium agreement with Delta Dental of New York, Inc. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign a premium agreement to the dental service contract with Delta Dental of New York, Inc., 575 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, 122 for a 2-year term, January 1st, 2020 to December 31st, 2021, with the cost per primary enrollee at $6.20 per month, and be it further resolved that in all other respects, the original dental service contract shall remain in full force and effect. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board? Stuart, what's anything to know here with the Delta Dental?
No, in fact, the only reason, folks, that I'm bringing it before you is this year it is anticipated that the village will pay Delta Dental $14,975 with the increase in the per employee claim up to $6.20 per month for each enrollee from $590. It may go over the $15,000, which is the village manager's level of authorization without seeking board approval. So therefore, just out of an abundance of caution, I thought it would be prudent to get the board to approve it.
Sounds good. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the village manager to sign contract documents for a stop-loss insurance coverage, and further authorizing the village treasurer to pay the required premium to effect coverage. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to execute the necessary documents to enter into a contract with QBE North America, 55 Water Street, New York, New York, 141, to provide stop-loss insurance coverage for the village's self-funded health plan for the term effective January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020, with a deductible of $175,000 at a monthly rate per enrollee of $9.83 per aggregated premium and $134.70 per specific premium, and be it further resolved that the village treasurer is authorized to pay the required premium of $454,208 to effect coverage. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments on the board?
Mayor, I can just advise the board, these are the same figures as we are currently paying, so there is no increase.
Absolutely no increase. Excellent. We like that. Madam Clerk?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to visitor recognition. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board?
There is not.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adjourn into executive sessions for pending litigation?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Next week, we will be at the Ossining Public Library for our appreciation meeting, where we will have invited representatives or any members of our volunteer boards, councils, and commissions to join us. And they're going to give us a quick recap of last year, a look ahead to next year, and tell us how we can support them in their great work for our community. We are very fortunate to have so many volunteers, and Trustee Levin has been a fierce advocate for getting us to do this, this appreciation, and we're finally making it happen. So we're looking forward to having a special meeting next week at the Ossining Public Library in the Bedars Theater, where we will hear from and thank all of our volunteers. This meeting is adjourned.